Hey, how are you?
We're going to tear down.
We are now recording.
Mr. Blunt's property.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now call to order our September 19, 2022 council meeting. Before we have our invocation, I would like to ask you to join me in a moment of silence. As many of you may know, or you may not know, our community's had a very big tragedy this past week. A 16-year-old girl, Brunswick Avenue, Riley Grace Whitus, passed away last week in a horrible accident. I can tell you I have a special bond with her because when 2014, when she was in third grade, she stood beside me as we threw the switch to the lights in C Park. I've talked to numerous classmates of hers, just a top-notch individual, just a good, fine young woman with so much potential. And as we all know too often in our community, it seems like every few months we lose people to accidents, and that's just. So I ask you to join me a moment of private. Before we have a moment of silence, her relatives, her grieving relatives, which are many, include the mayor of Farmville, David Whitus. So she was very well loved, and we're gonna. I know folks in Ottaway are grieving over that, so I'd ask you to join me in a moment of silence. And with that, Father, we go to you in prayer tonight, and we ask tonight that you be with us and guide us through this meeting. Father, we ask tonight that no matter what issue may arise, that we discuss it, decide it, defer it in a manner that's pleasing to your sight. Father, we're grateful for the number of people here tonight. Give them the courage and the grace to express their views. This is their government, and we are grateful for the opportunity to gather in a free nation and in a great community like Blackstone. And in these things we ask in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Yeah.
We invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight. I just want to remind everybody, we have two opportunities for public comment in Blackstone. Not everybody does that. We have opportunities at the start, we have opportunities at the finish, and unlike a lot of local governing bodies, if you've got a question and you want to raise your hand and be recognized, we'll recognize you. We don't have a time limit at the podium, but if you get long-winded, I will say we got to wrap it up. That's simple. But it's your government, and first order of business tonight, we have an advertised public hearing. This is a conditional rezoning for the Blackstone United Methodist Housing, which for, I believe, 24 apartments adjacent to Peel Manor.
That's correct. And
Require rezoning to R3.
currently the property is zoned, it's a 3-acre tract of property that was retained by the Methodist Church or Virginia United Methodist Housing Corporation in the transaction which transferred ViewMac to DMM Properties. There were 3 acres retained. There is a site plan that's been prepared and presented showing 24 units. It'll be a single-family patio style, very similar to what we see at Peel Manor. I think one building has more units, or is it 2-bedroom units? Two-bedroom units, and the others are smaller. Planning Commission consider it. There were 2 proffers discussed. One would be that it would be a 62-year minimum or an age restriction on the units, and of course we've talked a little bit about some electric easements that we're going to need for sure. You're already showing some water and sewer, and obviously the utility easements will be required for the town. Planning Commission did recommend unanimously approve it.
And these, if approved, all of these units would be purchasers of town water, sewer, and electric. Is that correct?
That's correct. And they are inside town limits of unless you're tax exempt, and I'm not sure if you are or not, they would also pay taxes.
Well, we are tax exempt, the property is not tax exempt.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to open public hearing, and I kind of do things backwards here because I've heard a lot of support. I know the Planning Commission unanimously recommended it with the proffers. Anyone here tonight against it? Concerned about it? Worried about it? Anyone here tonight to advocate for it? Looks like you don't have any opposition, but I know Mr. Cadillac, is that right? Yes. Hard to forget that name, by the way. Anyone here to speak or elaborate on the? Yes.
Just add a few things.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I am Larry Dickinson. I'm the president of Virginia United Methodist Housing. And we are very pleased to be working on this project to expand the size of Peel Manor and as well renovate the existing Peel Manor properties so that we have a larger and fully sustainable property looking at the next 30 years. Peel Manor was put in place and fully occupied in 2007, so it's been about 15 years. And we think it's been a very successful property for us in terms of high occupancy, low drama, and everything running pretty smoothly. We would expect the same to continue. And so this is part of we currently own about 900 units around the state, and we are trying to expand that, and very pleased to have the opportunity to add to the Peel Manor facility here. So thank you for your consideration. We're happy to try to answer any questions.
Mr. Miller, you have a question of Mr. Dickinson?
Yes, I do. Are these for seniors? I'm
Correct.
assuming,
Yes, these are reserved for seniors. Peel Manor currently is operated that way, and the new units would be the same. The only difference is Peel Manor is all one-bedroom units. The new property will have 5 buildings with 4 units each that are 1 bedroom, and then a single building that has 4 units that are 2 bedrooms to give folks an option. And that's our attempt to try to make sure that we meet the housing needs of that economic segment of folks here in the county.
There's no one here in this room over 62, but there's a lot of folks in the community that are 62 and older. But there's no one here. But we thank you. And you said it best. Peel Manor has been low drama. I don't recall. I have a police scanner in my house. I can't tell you I've ever heard a call at Peel Manor, other than the occasional maybe ambulance call.
Well, what we have found is these 4-plex designs where you have 4 units connected with some connected walls, but providing everybody a separate entrance is a real favorite type within our portfolio of housing. And so we're very pleased to be able to do that here.
We're glad to hear from you. Any other questions of Mr. Dickinson? All right, thank you very much.
Okay,
Anyone else who
thank
cares
you.
to speak tonight? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Members of council, questions, comments, motions?
Move to approve the plan as presented
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
Can you include the 2
with the proffers of the easements and what was that first one?
62-year-old
The-
age restriction?
The age restriction.
62 and older. All right, Mr. Nash has moved. Ms.
So
Jones
moved.
is second. Ms. Jones is second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 6-0. Next up, you have your minutes, and our clerk has been really, I'll tell you, she's had a summer of minutes. And they're phenomenal. And I want to just say this while we have a full chambers. A lot of governing bodies you go to, you get the minutes, it goes, so-and-so was there, so-and-so spoke, motion was made. These minutes record the spirit of the discussion, and that's important, not just now, but more important as years go by, when somebody wants to know, why did they do that? What was the rationale? So I commend our clerk. Members of council, what is your pleasure? You have 4 batches of minutes.
Move to approve.
Mr. Miller has moved. Is there a second? Ms. Jones, a second. Any further discussion, clarifications, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Under visitors, we have no one listed on the agenda. I did know I was told the Lax family was going to be here tonight, I was told.
And this lady here.
Okay. Yes, Donna Wallace Perkinson. Would you like to come forward?
Now? Sure.
This is your time. There's 2 times.
my time.
The next time might be an hour and a half from now.
Absolutely.
I would get it done now.
Okay. First of all, good evening,
Good
Mayor
evening.
Coleman and Town Council. As you just said, I'm Donna Perkinson, and I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Nancy Wallace. We have a serious dog issue here in the town of Blackstone and Nottaway County, and it seems that the ordinances and regulations relative to this matter are not being adhered to by pet owners, nor are they able to be enforced properly. Within a 6-month period, there have been 3 attacks by pit bulls on just our family. A pit bull from Pickett Court attacked my mother's dog. during the month of April on 2 different occasions, while her dog was confined to her own property with an underground fence at 23 Ridge Road. On September 2nd, my mother herself was attacked by a pit bull on East Broad while walking on a public street. In speaking with Philip, he is advised that he wants to enforce the year-round dog confinement and dangerous dog ordinance. But in order to do so, it's the county that he needs authorization from to have access to the dog shelter. He's got someone for the job, a truck to put him in. And again, all this is at the town's expense, but the county won't allow him access to the shelter, so there is nowhere for him to take dogs. I don't understand why this is the case, but nonetheless, your town manager needs the support of the Blackstone residents to be heard, to assist in getting Nottoway County to make a change and allow the town access to the shelter. As a resident of the town of Blackstone, you also pay taxes in Nottoway County. Therefore, you certainly should be afforded that right, and it needs to take place immediately, not wait to see whether or not the proposed new animal shelter gets approved. It's also my understanding that the current animal shelter doesn't house dangerous dogs. So that means we leave them on the streets to run at large and hope that no one else gets hurt, because it's been proven that we can't expect the irresponsible pet owners to follow the confinement rules or even have their dog properly vaccinated. After this incident where my mother was bitten, the pet owner chose to let her dog run at large again, despite the fact that she had been advised by the Blackstone Police Department that the dog would need to be confined in a fence or in the house for 10 days. I've ridden by there many a time. The dog is still out there. Some of the pet owners in this town are very irresponsible and have no intention of following the ordinance or the regulation. What is it going to take before the residents of the town and Nottoway County realize we have a major dog issue here and something needs to be done? You can call it a coincidence if you want, but in my opinion, 3 dog attacks in less than 6 months on just one family tells me it's just a matter of time before the next person gets attacked or even killed. It could be you, your child, or even your grandchild. I don't want to have to explain to my 5-year-old grandson again why his granny got bit and she can't run and play with him any longer. Your police department is doing all that they can to enforce the ordinance, but again, without access to that shelter at Nottoway, they have no choice but to leave the dangerous dog with the pet owner because Nottoway County won't allow them access to the shelter that your tax dollars are assisting with paying for. The current shelter stays full, and it's my understanding from the animal control officer herself, they don't house dangerous dogs. That needs to change immediately, if that is the case. The other issues come after the attack. Who's going to absorb the medical bills? It certainly shouldn't be the one that was attacked, but so far, that's been the case. Who's going to enforce the pet owner to pick up the medical bills? Out of respect for fellow residents, all pet owners in this town should follow the ordinance and be required to maintain proper insurance, so if their pet does bite someone, the least they could do is assume the responsibility for the medical bills. I want to extend a thank you to the Blackstone Police Department, Nottoway Sheriff's Department, and Nottoway Emergency Squad for their prompt attention and expertise with the handling of the dog bite that my mom got on September 2nd. Without them, the outcome would have been way more serious than it already was. There was an enormous amount of blood lost. I respectfully ask you citizens of the town of Blackstone to do your part in speaking up and letting your voices be heard in Blackstone and Nottoway relative to the serious dog issue we face on a daily basis. Don't let your loved one be the next one to be harmed or even killed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
Philip, why, if the dog is not confined after the case, why is the owner not ticketed then at that point?
Well, I think she has received a second
Got 6.
citation. Mr. Miller may know as much about it as I do, but when the bite initially occurred, thankfully, the police department was able to put a tourniquet on Miss Wallace, have her transported. We went out to the site afterwards, or I went there. The police department was still there with the family and the animal control officer. I was a little astonished that the dog wasn't being picked up at that time. I'm not an expert on animal control law in the state of Virginia, but was informed that the shelter was full and did not have room at that time for another dog. Chief and I, after the second time the dog was out, we contacted Ted Kaufman, who again reiterated that there wasn't room in the shelter and that the shelter was a no-kill shelter. When approached,
Just stop right there. This is very important. No one loves animals more than me, and I could not be one to euthanize a dog humanely. This goes against my grain. But Nottoway County has never voted on making a shelter a no-kill
That's what I
shelter.
was getting ready to say.
we were,
That's something that just kind of came about through just somebody's desires, and unfortunately, it is. If you at the same meeting, Miss Perkins and Miss Wallace and I attended, the latest price tag on the new shelter is $2.6 million. You would think that would be rather grandiose and very accommodating. The current shelter has 10 kennels. The $2.6 million venture will accommodate, guess how many dogs? 20. $65,000 a year $65,000 per kennel per dog and cat with that price tag. So one of the things I want to do, Mr. Van Norbeck, is suggest the council authorize me to write a letter, a very passionate letter, asking that we are allowed access to the shelter, whichever one it is, and that they make room or bend rules, whatever, to house a dangerous dog. Because unfortunately, it's not an animal issue as much as it's a people issue, but we can't count on derelict pet owners, generally speaking, to be concerned.
but after the second time that the dog was out, Chief and I did meet, and we made several phone calls to counties around in the area that may have room in the shelter, and Amelia County agreed to accept the dog at the shelter. Mr. Costin was informed of that. Mr. Costin, I think, asked the animal control officer to go pick the dog up, and then subsequently you saw the email where apparently they communicated with their attorney, and the attorney recommended not to pick up the dangerous dogs. Like I said, I'm not an expert on Virginia law, and I don't profess to be when it comes to animal control, but it would seem to be a bit of a comedy of errors. If we don't have room, we found
You found
a
room.
space for the dog in about 10 minutes.
I
Calling
find
around.
that that's an issue, yes, but it's more out of our control than what, after the dog remains loose. Why can the person, the owner ought to be jailed, in my opinion.
I agree.
I mean, why are we sitting around playing and putting 6 summons on this person? Jail them.
Well, here's a question that's important, and we've been through this before, and I forget. Are the summonses against the pet owner in this case written by the county or the town?
I
The
don't know
town.
the answer to that. I
I
really
think
don't. Do
the
you
town
guys
wrote
know?
those.
That's always been a gray area.
I don't know.
Well, we can write tickets for dogs running at large. I would hope and pray it's a town
You
ordinance.
can also write for like a vicious dog because that was written, but then
Town.
the court system had to deem that the dog itself was dangerous.
And they declared it so.
They did declare it.
Yes, they
I don't
did.
know if it was written by the animal control officer or the police officer.
It was our department.
The
It
police
was Blackstone
department.
because it's a town ordinance. We have a
Yes, we
Right.
haven't, the ordinance here clearly states that they are, first of all, it's a leash law here. No dog should be roaming free.
That's right.
There are people that walk in this town every day, and something major is
The
going
leash
to
can't
happen.
exceed 4 feet. That was 1994.
And, I don't know what it's gonna take for Nottoway to grant y'all access, but I think we are gonna have to stay on them, because with 3 attacks on 2 on my mom's dog and her, it's not acceptable for me. I don't live in this town, I used to live in this town, but I have to do what I need to do to protect my mother, and I am very frustrated at the fact that no one wants to assume the responsibility for any of the bills. It falls back on the person that's being attacked.
It'll be a drip at best. Gets
And
that
so
money.
what do?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a litigious society.
Yeah.
I hate to do that because I know I've been an insurance agent for 31 years. I know if you have homeowners insurance and it's not an exclusion on there, that will extend. If you've got tenants liability, same thing, it will extend. But if they carry no insurance and they're irresponsible, as far as the vaccines too, At first, they didn't know if the dog had its rabies shot.
So when in doubt, you've got to get the shots.
So when in doubt, you get the shot. Well, I've had to take my mother back 3 more times for more shots, even though they say, hey, the dog has the rabies. What on that piece of paper shows me that that dog is the dog that we're talking about?
Right.
So, you know, there's no picture of that dog on there, and it's funny, we didn't know that it had its rabies, so the doctor says we have to continue with the shots. So not only was my mom transported by squad to Chippenham, she's got the bills from that, she's got to go 3 more times to have rabies shots, and the bills are coming in for that. The dogs that attacked her other dog, attacked her dog, there's a $116 vet bill. That has been yet to be collected, and that's since April.
And that was court ordered. Was that
And that was court ordered.
court ordered? I'd ask council to authorize me to write a very stern, persuasive letter to the county seeking permission to have access to that pound, whatever pound that is. And that we need to have a talk. And one thing I'd ask everybody here and anyone watching on television, I think one of the most powerful things you said, Ms. Ferguson, is elected officials tend to respond better to constituents than other elected officials.
Right.
And I think it's gonna require, if you live in Blackstone, and you've got a story to share, or you wanna voice your support for your mother, Nancy Wallace, who I'm glad to see in the audience tonight, you do it. Because next year there is a big countywide election. And, but this is bigger than an election. This is a public safety issue.
I would like to add that if you guys remember, we had talked about this last year, and I think, Chief, you probably have, he's very good at documenting, there's probably some correspondence asking the county to allow access to the shelter at town expense, and I think Chief had even offered some assistance, weekends, nights, call-outs, those kinds of things, last year.
It's been a year you and I have been working.
Did you get an answer?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, other than Ted saying I just. not
Well, we're
able
gonna
to-
write the letter well in advance of the Board of Supervisors meeting. If we don't get a reply, then we will go and speak at the Board of Supervisors.
I guess.
I've not got a good record there, but I'll try again.
Jake's got some information.
It looks like it's a class 1 misdemeanor if your dog is labeled a dangerous dog and you don't comply with a couple of things like dog needs to be spayed or neutered, you plan on keeping the dog in enclosure at all times, you have
Signage.
posted signs, you have insurance that covers dog bites of 100,000 or more, you have a tag identifying the dog, and you will form the animal control officer your dog gets loose. And that's punishable up to a class 1 misdemeanor with $2,500 fine or a year in jail.
She has 30 days to comply from the date of the bite. Is that correct, Chief?
I thought it said 45 days. I went up to Nottaway and got a copy of that, and got a copy of the ordinance here, or
Yes, ma'am.
ordinances here. You know, and all of this is great. This is what she needs to do, but if nobody can enforce it, then it's not worth the paper it's
Well,
written.
here's the bottom line. We've got, and I appreciate your observations about town. We've got some of the best ordinances written, but guess what? Once the grandbaby gets bitten in the intestines by a pit bull, 'cause that's normally where they like to strike, and your dog is declared a vicious dog, well, great, wonderful. A child is maimed for life or worse.
Absolutely.
And I hear the call, Chief, I know y'all do the best you can, but we do, Chief, would you agree or disagree? I hate to put you on the spot, you know, but would you agree or disagree that we do have a considerable dog running at large issue from time to time in this town? Would you agree, or you think that's a stretch?
No, I don't think that's a stretch, Mayor. I think we do, and which is why the town manager and I, about a year ago, started kind of negotiating with the county to try to do more with animal control in town. But
Right.
Unfortunately, that requires access to the shelter, and we haven't gotten.
Yeah.
Is the animal still at the current location? Is the animal still at the current location?
As far as I know, it's still quarantined in the house.
I didn't ride by there when I came up today, but I know it was last week still there. And it was outside on a chain, but supposedly someone is letting the dog off its chain.
I hope not, because I go to work and
I've heard that as well, so
I go to work and when
I'm making notes. Let her.
bothers me also because my daughter, one of those dogs was running after my daughter. My 14-year-old son stepped in front of the dog. He had enough his mind to step in front of that dog. And that would have not been a very good,
Just a street over there on Tavern, I saw a bunch of kids out there
always.
running around,
always.
you know. That dog's gonna attack one of those kids.
Yeah.
We went walking and the dog ducked down and was running. She had to call the dog, same dog.
I think we recognize the problem. I think council recognizes the problem.
Right.
We just need to find that remedy that allows the chief, who has, one of our police officers has volunteered
Right.
to be a part-time animal control and part-time police officer. We'd actually even bought a truck, if you remember, that's been here for
that's
some
correct.
time. In expectation of us being able to enforce that running at large ordinance in town, which is a town-specific ordinance, not applicable in the county. You just haven't gotten any response.
Well, and you know, I know you guys are doing what you
Hopefully we
can
can
do,
do more.
and I appreciate.
I mean,
the
I
support.
understand that the county, we're bound by the county and the animal shelter, but I still think we should be able to throw the book at the person with the dogs until that is remedied. I mean, I think we should authorize the chief and say, please do anything we possibly can. If you see that dog off again, I think that person should get a class 1 misdemeanor, $2,500 fine.
Mr. Miller, something you want to say?
And also, going back to what you said, right after this incident, me and John Roy went up there, right? And like you said, I was very unsatisfied because they had an excuse that they didn't have this and they didn't have that. So I brought up the question, because I have grandkids down there. I said, what are you going to do? You're going to wait until a kid gets killed, then you're going to do it? So I think what we need to do is, like he said, he's going to write a letter, but it needs to be monitored. And also, if you look around in Blackstone, you'll see a dog tied to a tree. That is illegal too, because the dog has to have water, shelter.
Yeah.
So it's illegal, and all this is happening, you know?
And I do hear a lot of calls. People will call in, concerned citizens will call and report a dog in a hot car, or a dog on a leash on a hot day with no water nearby, that sort of thing. But I think another question that has to be asked, and I'll address this in the letter, is show me the minutes where the Board of Supervisors voted to declare Nottaway County a no-kill shelter. And like I said, I don't want any animal to die at all. But if you say we're not going to kill animals after 10 days, you can't build a shelter big enough in Nottaway County if you're going to catch stray dogs and cats. And so,
And Billy, I Googled, which, you know, Google's not always right, but what is a no-kill shelter? And there is like a provision in there that does say that they can still euthanize dogs that are considered vicious.
Right.
And it was like one other thing. So there are, even if it is a no-kill facility, there's exceptions to that rule. And if you've got a pit bull that's bit once, it's gonna bite twice.
Right, because he smells blood.
that's what I've been told. I see Mr. Wes Gormas.
Yes, sir. I just had a question. You said it's an issue with access to Nottaway's facility?
That's what we've been told, yes, sir.
Just during off hours, nighttime, or is it all
Always.
the time?
Always.
So they won't take any dogs from Blackstone?
Nope.
Because I was thinking if it was just off hours, if we had a holding place that to put them until they could come and get them or whatever. I don't know.
I think we can, you know, obviously the animal control will go pick up a dog and take it to their shelter. But yeah, their problem, for some reason, I don't know what it is. If it's a liability, it's a joke. Because to me, the liability is worse by us not being able to.
Makes no sense if we're part of Nottaway.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
They'll come pick up the dog, but they're saying they're not gonna pick up a vicious dog. They only have 10 spots. They can only put so many dogs in there together. And if you put a vicious dog in with the other dogs, then you got an issue.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got a dog that's biting people here, you need to euthanize it. You know, I had to do that to a little dog that I had. He got old and crotchety, and I couldn't trust him with the UPS man or whatever. I called my vet and said, could you please come and euthanize him?
Right. It's just a necessary thing, unfortunately. Members of council, y'all have heard this. We thank you. Good to see Ms. Wallace here. And we'll move on to who else would like to speak on the visitors. I see Ms. Jean Lax. And Bobby Thomas, you'll be next. And the speed bumps are coming, but let's hear it again. I don't mind I love your persistence, and we're glad to see you.
Well, I'm here again. It's been almost 6 months.
It has.
And this council said I could get them. I'm tired of the runaround. I'm tired of being lied to. And I don't know whether this is feasible or not, but the ones that you've got on Lunenburg Avenue, could you just put those in picket court until you put the regular ones down? Or would it?
Yeah, just so everybody knows, some people may wonder, I know people go, oh, Lunenburg and 10th is a special area. That was done the concern was that because of the South Main construction, that, like what happened in 2007, there would be just a funeral procession nonstop of people trying to skip Main Street. And that's why, and people on Lunenburg Avenue were concerned about speeding, and they wanted to deter the traffic.
But I see they're coming all to pieces.
This council has voted and is on record on authorizing up to 4, is that correct?
Yeah.
And the paver who was gonna install them, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Town Manager, didn't he get called away?
No, the paver that's going to install them is the same guy that's doing the South Main project.
Okay, it is,
So
okay.
when the South Main project is completed, hers will be completed as well. And we were hoping that would be in September. You see the progress we're making, and hopefully it'll be in September.
How long
If
would it
not,
take to put up,
speed bumps,
yeah,
probably a day or so.
a day to put 4 in?
But you want the ones better, the ones on Lunenburg Avenue are temporary, not as severe as the ones
I know
over by
that.
the bay.
And
We
they're
want you,
coming, and they're coming all to pieces
but
too.
right, we want you to have the Cadillac speed bump.
I know. But I
Traffic
will settle-
calming
I
device.
will settle for these until we get the Cadillac.
Can we give Ms. Lax an idea? Would it be before, could it be before Thanksgiving or Halloween?
Certainly,
All right.
certainly.
I'm gonna warn you right now. I won't bother you on Friday, on Saturday and Sundays, but starting the third.
Every day.
Every day. But the
Jen-
third and-
Jennifer takes my calls, so you can speak to Jennifer.
No,
and
I'm speaking to you.
Can we nudge the contractor? It's Colony Construction, is it Colony?
They're under contract, yeah. I've contracted with Colony to do them. Colony Construction is doing the South Main Street, and as quick as they get over there and do South Main Street, they'll be doing these two.
They probably only wanna bring the paving machine out once.
Yeah, they don't want to come back. I
Right.
mean, they
Why
don't
can't
want
they
to do
put
it.
it down before they start paving?
Pardon?
Why can't they put the bump?
Because with all due respect, the 10,000 vehicles a day location is a higher priority than Pickett Court. That's just,
We'll get
we
'em.
love you, but that's just the way, it's a higher priority.
Well, I was gonna say, Philip, I'm gonna call you every day.
No,
And if I don't talk to you, I'm gonna come sit in your office.
no.
That is a promise.
And I do believe her.
I would refer you to
And I-
our town clerk. She.
And I would,
she-
and I've
quick as
already
that.
had a couple other people tell me they'd come with me.
Well, come at 12 o'clock. I'm usually at.
No, I'll sit there and
Yeah,
make you
lunch.
come back.
Well, can council agree by common consent, can you maybe call, just give a little nudge?
Hey, you told me you were gonna call me and give me the man's name and number. You told me that.
Yeah, can I have it?
Tabor's name and number?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give it to you right now.
All right, give me a pen.
And they're not doing it for free. We are paying them, so it's, all right.
I'll tell you, I'll say one more thing and then I quit. My son has worked on construction. He's built bridges. He's an iron worker. He can do anything you ask him to do. You give him the bumpers, show him where they go, and give him the stuff to do it, and he will do it.
We might get him about to build an animal shelter while he's at it. Thank you, Ms. Lax. We hear you and we appreciate you. We appreciate your persistence. That's what it takes and we appreciate it. Bobby Thomas was next. I'm guessing this is hopefully October 22nd Wine Festival.
Well, yeah, it is, but I mean, I got some good news for you.
All right, what's better than the Wine Festival?
Good evening, council and Mr. Mayor. I'm here tonight basically to give you some news that back in 2018, 2019, the Harris Memorial Armory Group decided to come in to help me, since most of the time I was doing the wine festivals by myself. So they joined in to help me out. And since you are now in control of the renovations of the armory, I've been advised to give the donation of $1,827.41 to the town in honor of the Harris Memorial Armory for renovation. This was basically discussed with Walter Mack, and he said that you should receive the check and not the Armory Group. So I'm here tonight to present you this check.
That's mighty nice. That's mighty nice. We present that to Philip. And thank you, Bobby. Thank you.
From the wine festival.
Okay, thank you.
And Bobby, that's October 22nd. I think you got 4 or 5 wineries coming, I believe. And
5 wineries, just could not get any brewers due
Yeah.
to either no staffing,
or they're so busy in Richmond.
Farmville, they ended up being sold out during the pandemic, and Blue Ridge Distributor won't distribute their beer past Burkeville.
East of
I was like, you kidding me? another 10, 12
Yeah.
miles, and you can distribute your beer. So Brew House will be providing the beer.
Okay.
I've contacted 45 brewers, and either they can't have the staff, or like in the Richmond area, they're brewing so fast and selling so fast, they don't have time to do festivals.
It is, yeah.
So that's the biggest.
But so
thing
you do
about it.
have the brew house, so we do have a brewery. There,
Right, well,
okay.
yeah, and of course, he is building, I understand, a brewery,
Yes.
attempting to do
Yeah.
one, so.
Well, that's great. That's October the 22nd,
22nd.
12 to
we've got
5, 12 to 6?
12 to 6. We've got 5 5 wineries, and of course, the brew house will be providing the beer.
Bobby, we thank you.
Well, Mr. Thomas is here. We received an invoice today for Signs Design and More. It was a nominal amount, about $145, $150 for modifications to the panel.
It should be sent to me, I don't know why. it
Should
be
they
sent
come to you? And
Yes,
okay,
it should be sent to me, I don't know why it was sent to you.
I'll get the invoice to you.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bobby.
thank you.
Anyone else under the first part of visitors? Seeing none, we'll get into our agenda. I don't see the fire chief here tonight. He's got his report in your packet.
They're in Wisconsin.
I'm sorry.
They're in Wisconsin looking at the ladder truck.
Oh, okay. That,
If
didn't
I can
realize.
very quickly.
Yes.
Chief did, and I think there's a letter on your desk.
Yeah, that's on the agenda. Knock it out now if you want to.
Knock it out, if we can, real quick. I think there was just a misunderstanding about a particular grant. It's unfinished business number 9. When it was originally presented, and Dion has provided you, and it all sounds very, very accurate. The only thing is, I don't think I have as much of a commitment from USDA yet as maybe this letter states. But we are working with USDA to get a 55% grant to pay for the equipment that would be going on to this truck. In addition, this $40,000 grant from the state would be applicable. But what I need for you guys tonight, I think it was originally presented as a $20,000 grant loan combination. It really is a $40,000 grant loan combination. Jackie Brown and I, we contacted the Department of Health and spoke with the gentleman there, and he did explain it to us that indeed that was the case. Most of this airbag equipment, which are Eric, you can probably explain it, the bags that will right a vehicle that may be turned over or a truck that may be turned over. If you ever watch Heavy Haulers on Weather Channel, is how they set these vehicles back up. What I need to ask you guys is authorization to accept the full amount of the grant, which would be $40,000, and make a commitment of the town for $40,000. Most of this airbag equipment has been already received.
Will this be this fiscal year or the next fiscal year?
This fiscal year.
This fiscal year?
Yeah. Stuff is here.
Okay, members of council, what's your pleasure? It's to outfit the, the $1.7 million ladder truck?
$1.744 million.
We're in. I mean,
Make a motion to,
It would be to accept the full amount of the grant, which is a $40,000 award from the State Department of Health, and that the town recognizes its match wouldn't be $20,000, but it would be $40,000.
Okay. Councilwoman Jones has moved to approve. Is there a second?
second.
Ms. Williams seconded. Any further discussion? Because it involves more than $10,000, we'll have a roll call vote starting. Is it Mr. Nash's turn tonight? Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0 with one absentee.
And so, we are working, and Jennifer's done an excellent job getting documentation to USDA. We have, I think, a great relationship with them right now. We have and are awaiting notification on, he's got over $130,000 of total purchases. We hope to hear from USDA that they will fund 55% of that. In addition, we would have this $40,000 grant and then this $40,000 commitment from the town. I hope that will do the trick. We'll wait and see. But we do not have confirmation from USDA that they will fund the additional. I'll ask Dion if he can hold off on purchasing anything else at this very moment. However, we want to make sure that in order not to lose that $40,000 grant or the full amount of the $40,000 grant, that if we need to make some purchases, we'll do so.
Sounds very good. Moving right along to payment of bills, you have the checks not yet approved, a little higher than normal, $2,017,000, $2,017,119.11. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Jones has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allman has seconded. Discussion. the main interrogator has left the building. But
They're pretty high. $2
yeah,
million bucks is.
they're very high. Usually about $500,000 or $600,000.
You got a VEMA bill, which is standard or typical. It's a little bit higher than it usually is because of the warm weather.
Right.
But paid off the RAND note, which is over $620,000, which is the revenue anticipation note that we took out for the VMAC IRS fund.
All right.
So we paid that back. We've been reimbursed $455,000 of that so far, and await the difference. And then there are a couple drawdowns on South Main Street with HG Reynolds. There's two of them, and that's probably over $370,000.
Motion's been made and duly seconded. Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Almond.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. One absentee, and Mr. Nash has stepped out briefly. Your next batch of bills to be paid, total $508,533.19. They're broken down by department. They're available for public inspection. These are, I believe, what we call these. These are checks not yet approved. These are to be paid. Any questions about any line items or a motion to approve?
I got a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Miller.
I've never seen this before. It says Goodman Truck and Tractor.
What department are you in?
I'm in the bus shop.
Okay.
What page?
On
9 of 12, I believe.
7 or 12.
7 of 12, okay.
And it says $1,882.25 roof repair to bus.
I
Is that
think that was.
a insurance claim or what?
The church?
That's what?
We had a bus that went under the portico at the Methodist church and
Oh, okay.
mashed it.
Didn't clear it? Or-
Didn't clear it.
Okay.
Did some damage to them and to one of the buses. Is that correct?
Okay. Insurance claim?
Insurance claim.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Good catch there, Mr. Miller. Gotta be careful at Crenshaw. Any other discussion, questions? I'll have a, do we have a motion?
We'll have a motion first.
I'll have a, Ms. Jones has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Scott is seconded. Any further discussion? Have a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Almond.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0 with 2 absentees. We have no appropriations this month.
Actually, I
Oh,
do
we
have
do?
one for you, yes.
Okay, it's paper
But
copy.
added to your desk, what it is 2 vehicles. Mary, with the transit department, we checked into the availability of vehicles, because if you've tried to buy a truck lately or anything lately, it's very, very difficult to get them, and they're taking a significant amount of time to get them. They would not take orders for anything that was in excess of a 1,500 or a half-ton pickup truck. And I think they were talking about this fall or this winter, when you would be able to order those, and we did not have a full price, and they could not give us a full price, but we went ahead and put our names on 2 pickup trucks in the total amount of $82,621. Those 2 trucks, the prices finally came in within the past 2 weeks, and Jennifer prepared an appropriation, and this would be the purchase of the trucks. The way we buy trucks and what we do is whenever we surplus equipment, sell a garbage truck, sell not buses, but town equipment, we have scrap metal that we keep, those kinds of things. The interest from our money market account applies to that, and Jennifer's using the scrap costs and then fund balance, which is the reserves that, not our undesignated reserves, but our cash that we have on hand.
We're talking about a $45,000 truck for the street crew, and then a regular cab, $150 at $37,000. You're taking proceeds from the sale of scrap vehicles. Just one question I thought about. When you first became town manager, I remember we kind of cracked down on, we were pinching pennies like crazy. With gas being as high as it is now, are we trying to limit the use of trucks on the road? I mean, I know the prices come down.
I can't say that I've put any kind of order out there to everybody to reduce
Right.
doing things. The electric guys are electric guys, and the water guys, the cops are doing what the cops do. And
Right.
obviously the bus has its routes that it's following. I can't say that we have any kind of direction to staff to limit usage. I don't think we travel very much, I will tell you that. When you look at the staff, I don't go to a lot of conferences. Council
Right.
doesn't go to
No.
a lot of conferences, that sort
Just
of thing.
curious.
So
That's
it's
good.
pretty rare, other than maybe a police officer going to a training session in Lynchburg or something like that. It's pretty rare to see.
We're also better able to deal with it than we were in 2012 also.
Yeah, cash-wise, yes.
Very good. All right, so I need a motion to approve the appropriations.
Make a motion.
Mr. Miller has moved. We'll give Ms. Jones a second. It involves more than 10,000. Yes, Mr. Bagley.
Mr. Mayor and Council, on these vehicles, especially the pickup trucks, with this COVID still floating around and other possible diseases coming, are we buying regular pickup trucks or are we buying king cab trucks that, you know, you want to have 3 in the front, you got 2-seaters?
One is just a regular cab truck, kind of like what I drive. You know, it's just 2 seats. The other one is a 4-seater crew cab, so that the guys that cut grass, they've been using Andre's 4-seater that Andre can use to pull a trailer that we can put the skid steer or the mini excavator on, and so this would replace that. So those guys would have a 4-seat vehicle, and that's the grass crews, and Melvin Hicks typically would be driving that. So there's one of each. And the 2-seater, the regular cab, would be to replace, if anybody has seen that really old green truck that we have in the electric department, see the old timer. All right.
Okay, motion's been made and duly seconded. Because it involves over $10,000, we'll start with Mr. Almond.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. You have before you the report from the County Finance Committee. Chairman Nash is not here at this moment, but we have one recommendation, and that is giving customers 12 months to pay the utility bills that participated in budget billing, which means basically we're going to, could you explain that briefly for the audience?
We've got some folks that are in arrears. To their credit, we haven't overcharged them necessarily, but they owe the town an appreciable amount of money because of perhaps a lack of attentiveness on the budget billing process. We talked to the Finance Committee and we discussed a couple of options, but I think the Finance Committee would like to work out payment agreements with everybody over a 12-month period.
Everybody okay with that? I'd entertain a motion to that effect if council desires.
Make a motion.
All right, Ms. Jones has moved to let those in the budget billing program have 12 months to pay off, those in arrears to pay off their balances. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Almond is seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. You see the town manager's finance plan. That's informational.
I would note that the town currently, or as of October 1st, will have a principal debt of $10,399,000, not including fire trucks and police cars and all the above things. And
That doesn't include Armory either, does it?
does not include the armory, no, sir. And these are all utility.
Just can't get it down. At one time it was 14 and 12, and it's just,
You pay about $1 million a year in debt service, principal, and interest. And so it's slow, it's sure, but we added East End this past couple of years, and the 2018 and 2020 deals were $3.2 million, so we added that amount. But if you do nothing else, you should be able to pay this off in 6-7 years at the current rate. However, USDA is a very low rate at 1.3%, and that's a 40-year note. Most of these others are on a 20-year amortization.
you have done a
Say
good
that
job.
The
but you-
refinancing that we did in 2020, I think is on a 14-year amortization because 2034 is when that one's due.
But you've done a great job at identifying opportunities to pay off and.
Refi and
Yes,
and pay off.
refinance, yes.
And one thing we'll point out later on that we paid off some equipment debt that we had where we had received pretty substantial grants, and we paid off the loans in anticipation of the ladder truck, but that's going to be a big payment coming next year. So we're trying to pay some stuff off.
All right, moving right along, you have your consent agenda. There were actually 4 items. One is Employment and Police Committee. We have a recommendation to increase the CDL bus drivers that are currently making $12.50 an hour to $16 an hour, and a 50-cent an hour increase if they get their passenger endorsement. That's a recommendation from the Employment and Police Committee.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
No huge fiscal impact.
I think it only applies to like three drivers, does it not?
Right, correct. So the only drivers that aren't making 16 currently are just 3. So out of all of our 16 drivers, there's only 3 of them that are at, 2 of them are at 13, and 1 of them's at 12.50.
Mr. Miller, that's your committee. Would you like to make that a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to put that in the motion that all CDL drivers making $12.50 an hour to go to $16 an hour, and a 50-cent increase if they get their passenger endorsement.
Is there a second to Mr. Miller's motion?
Second.
Mr. Jones, second. Yes, Mr. Almond.
The other drivers that were not at the lower mark? What put them at the mark? Why are we playing catch up? In other words.
So the drivers that are currently at 16, I want to say it's a little over 16 is what they're at currently. It's because they have their passenger endorsement. The previous, I guess, classification for the bus drivers was 16, and then the 1250 for those who didn't have their passenger endorsement. But the reason I recommended this is because the drivers that are making 1250 have a CDL. So, you know, our other departments, they all make 16 now with
Correct.
the CDL. So I was just trying to kind of even it out, I guess, make it a little bit more fair with
Yes.
departments.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and also, did one of the guys that you have, didn't he go to the garbage truck?
Correct, yes.
Right, because he wasn't making $16.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's true.
The things we learn, we're always evolving. That's great. Motion's been made and duly seconded. Any further discussion? Good question by Mr. Allman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And the second recommendation, this could be a biggie here. Mr. Miller, this is the DBI Tourism Community Development job description. Committee recommends keeping the position separate. DBI would be in charge of tourism and economic development. Town would be in charge of community development, which it is now. So,
The reason for that is, if you look at that job description that they have,
about 4 pages long.
4 pages long, and no one person can do it. So let DBI handle the tourism and economic development, and the town keep on working with the community development.
But this would be, under your recommendation, this would be a new position.
Right.
Obviously, we have the DBI director here now. He would be obviously able to apply for that position, or are we just assuming, are we assigning more to the current DBI director? I honestly don't know the answer.
It would be a new application.
A new application.
Is this gonna be,
40-hour week.
it's gonna be a full-time position?
Full-time position, okay. Okay, well,
You need me, I can answer any questions.
I'm always glad to see you at the podium, Ms. Green. Any questions of Ms. Green? She's the chair of DBI. Let me ask you this, what is your vision, what is this new person, whoever he or she may
If
be?
you look in the packet, there's a memorandum of understanding of what DBI would do and what the town would do,
Okay,
which would give you a little bit more
gotcha.
information.
All right,
The gist of it was bringing DBI up to a full-time position while letting them have their independence, but coupling that with a pretty strict performance agreement to go with it to protect the town's investment. You look at DBI's past performance, even in the slower times, they're still more than paying for themselves with grants and investment.
Right.
So the idea was to put them back in a full-time position and see if that increases.
they would answer to the board, not the town manager, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, but there'd be some
It'd be a town position, so they'd have those town benefits,
town insurance, okay.
like it was in the past.
Yep, I like that a lot.
And you all have, and I think we discussed, you all have certain goals that,
Absolutely.
right, okay.
So, I know that, there's been a lot of talk about having the museums and stuff open, so will y'all be in charge of that?
Yes, it's in
Okay,
that,
so that's
it's in
okay.
that agreement.
Okay.
Mhm, to be in charge of the museums.
When might the town begin to advertise, if the council votes tonight to proceed, would the town begin to advertise for that position soon?
We'd be there early in the morning.
Okay.
If
So
not
this
week-
person could be on board before Christmas,
Then
before
we've
the
gotta have
holidays.
it, so if not this week, it'll be next week.
All right, very good. Members of council, what's your pleasure? I think it's a good recommendation.
I got a question though. Have we narrowed this thing down to where we put in the paper? Have we narrowed it down to the ad that we gonna put in the paper? You know, broke it down. Cause I mean, on the job responsibilities is what I'm asking. You know, when we put it in the newspaper, we can't put all this in there, so are we gonna cut it down or
The ad
what?
will be relatively
They
brief,
can inquire,
Right.
if they're interested, they'll inquire.
Okay.
and then they can call
Yeah.
you, town, whoever.
And everybody will have the same information, yeah.
Going back and I could work
Right.
on that if we need
Yeah.
to narrow it down.
All right. I
Our
see
job description that we presented was a little bit shorter than the 4-page town one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It is.
I don't think it's in the packet.
What will be this, and I know it's in the pack, what is gonna be the salary range starting? Do we have an idea?
Oh, there it is.
All right, I
I
can't
believe it's
just,
gonna be 50,000.
okay. All right. I saw Mr. Bobby Thomas very quick, yes, sir.
A couple questions. First of all, if DBI is going to take control, you need to make stipulations that the fact that they need to find some way to be trained on being able to give the tours? If not, are they going to, get some part-time, people involved? Because I know a couple of people who are interested. Also, if DBI board's gonna be in control of the museums, I think it's fair that a member of the Swartz Tavern Authority or my sister and I be part of the board to be able to give input. Since all of us, between Swartz Tavern Authority and of course my parents being involved in giving the money, I think we ought to have a right and say so in some of the input that goes through. Or either create a separate museum board, one of the two.
We'd be open to discussing that further, I think.
Yeah, I think either of those
I didn't
scenarios
know
would work.
does the Swartz Tavern Authority still meet?
Yeah, that's why you got to check.
But how frequently? How frequently do they meet?
Well, you're supposed to meet 4 times a year, but,
Okay.
I've had to push Jerome a lot.
Right.
But, again,
The key is, I think if all stakeholders are given an opportunity to participate in whatever capacity that might be, whether it's a
I think
seat of the
I think
board.
this position would just like to coordinate all of
Right,
that.
right. Because Bobby, there's no doubt the history of the town, those museums, a lot of folks have passed. You are here now. You possess a lot of that, and so we certainly want to utilize that.
I
And
was in the tavern for quite a long
Oh, I
time.
know.
I have a lot of
I know.
knowledge.
Oh,
about
yeah,
those
I know.
things, so
I
can
know.
help contribute
but
there.
we have recently found, and I think you've been informed, recently found a lot of the information is not correct. We're now putting it, Peggy Figler and I are putting it together, since we're, vice president, she's president of the Historical Society. And we've got a lot of new information coming out that's gonna shock some people.
Peggy called me over the weekend and said she had some groundbreaking news on the history of the town. So I look forward to learning more about that. We have a motion on the floor to approve the position. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Allman has seconded.
Hold on,
I think Mr. Miller offered it as a motion.
the wrong mouse.
Offered it as a motion.
I know, I'm-
Offered it as a motion.
Alright, so, but you also want the agreement approved as well, right? So you don't just want the position, you want
What agreement?
this agreement, is that what you want that
We
too,
have performance
right?
agreement. So you can make that as one motion. Who will ultimately hire the person? The DBI board.
DBI board, but it's
DBI board,
but it's gonna come before the employment and police. When they get down to 2 people, am I right? It's coming to the employment and police, and they
We'll
will.
do it together.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
well-
that's what it was. We'd work on it together.
All right, well, just because, once a committee of the council's involved, does that mean the committee is gonna recommend to the full council? Because the committees can't do anything but committees cannot,
It doesn't, I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference, but whatever the proper way to do it is, if it needs to be recommended to
Yeah,
full
if any,
council, we can
whatever.
I mean, if a
council.
council committee is
You
gonna be
recommend
involved,
someone And then you approve the hire, I mean, whatever y'all,
I think that would just be in keeping with the way things are done. You know, if
but let DBI choose someone and then you approve the choice, and what do you want to do?
If DBI is gonna hire the employee, then DBI can hire the employee. But if members of council are gonna be involved, one or more, I think it should come before the full council, and the full council should vote.
I think just to give us a little bit of protection, just.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a town
Maybe
position. I
DBI
mean,
will recommend-
the people of Blackstone are gonna be funding this person. Therefore, I think the representatives ought to have some say in it.
But it says here, number 2, provide one member of the council member to serve as a voting member. Isn't that us?
And who is the
That would
one
be
member
on the-
from council?
That'd be on our board.
That would just, that's
That's
just
on
to
your
give
board.
us some.
Right,
salary.
presence on the DBI board.
Definitely welcome.
And
I get it.
who is the council member that's serving on DBI?
I think that would have to be appointed. I mean, the logical choice would be that, yeah, we've come, I've been to 1 or 2 meetings. It's just hard to get people to go to meetings.
I think I've been to 1 or 2.
The title of my book will be called Death by Meeting. I've already got, it's that, or I've got another title too, but.
The
That's a
general idea
catchy
was DBI could go through the hiring process and make a recommendation to council, and then council could have final approval. Mr. Miller discussed having presenting 2 candidates, and I could go either way with one or.
I could too. I just think if we're gonna be partners, let's be partners.
Exactly.
Or if we're gonna go through, I don't mean this critically, but if we're gonna go through a facade of being partners and say, hey, hands off council, that's their baby, but the people of Blackstone are paying the salary. That worked well in the past. I remember Lafayette was phenomenal. Full-time, I thought, we've had some great DBI directors, but I like that full-time arrangement the best, and it worked pretty well.
That's but
And I don't think, I'm trying to think, going back in my mind, I don't know if council hired Mr. Dickens or not. Did council, I don't know if we did or not. DBI hired Mr. Dickens. So that might work as well.
I just envisioned they would do the hiring, they would do the process, and then
Right.
we'd have that final approval as a, you know.
Right.
Just like
to
you
give
said,
us-
we're all
give us
using the
some
taxpayers'
incentive.
money.